Yep. All right, everybody, welcome to the worldwide press conference for Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Like all of you, I'm a giant Harry Potter fan. I am really, really glad that more of the Wizarding world is coming to the screen, and really grateful to these filmmakers that I'm about to bring out for giving us all something to look forward to the next few years. Especially great news this week. All right, we so excited to have these people with us today. I'm honored to be standing up here with them, and I'm going to introduce them to you right now. Starring as Jacob Kowalski, who is the first nomad who you may know as a Muggle to be a leading character in one of the films from the Wizarding world, Dan Fogler. Starring as the beautiful and warm-hearted Queenie Goldstein, a witch who can read minds, Alison Sudol. The incredible award-winning director at the helm of Fantastic Beasts, and he also directed the final 4 Harry Potter blockbusters, David Yates. She is the reason, ultimately, that we are all here. She is the creator of the Wizarding world, and that world also changed our world forever. She is a producer on this film, and she is also making her screenwriting debut, J.K. Rowling. It's such a big deal to be in a room with J.K. Rowling.
If she stays upright.
Yeah. Starring as the courageous and compassionate Wizarding world magizoologist Newt Scamander, one of the nicest men in show business, Eddie Redmayne. The Oscar-nominated producer of all 8 Harry Potter films, which remain the top-grossing film franchise of all time. He'll be handing out money after we're done. Of course, he is a producer on Fantastic Beasts, David Hayman. Starring as the smart, determined, and compassionate witch, Tina Goldstein, your leading lady, Katherine Waterston. He stars as the mysterious young man, Credence Barebone, in the film, and he may know more about the Harry Potter universe than anyone on this dais, with the exception of one person. Yeah. Ezra Miller. I think we're getting a quick photo, and then you can all take your seats, and then we'll get started.
Where do we look at? Okay, yeah. Thank you. Yay.
Well, first I want to congratulate everybody and thank you for the film. And it is, again, really fun to be here. I'm going to kick off with a few questions before we go to all of you. And the first question is, of course, for Jo Rowling. Hi.
Hi.
Tell us, please, when you started to think that you wanted to revisit this on the big screen, revisit the world of Harry Potter on the big screen, and why did you decide to do the screenplay yourself?
I knew that Warner Brothers wanted to do something with Fantastic Beasts. They'd optioned it a long time ago. And when I wrote the little book that I wrote for charity, the character of Newt appealed to me, and as often happened with the Potterverse, I had some thoughts about what had happened to Newt and who Newt was. And I don't think at that stage I ever imagined writing a screenplay. Then when Warner's came to me and said they did now want to do something with Fantastic Beasts, I thought, no, wait a moment. I'd better tell them what I've got, because I wouldn't want them to get Newt wrong, because I knew I liked Newt. And then before I knew it, I'd actually written it. I sat down to write some notes, and then I wrote a story, and then that story became a screenplay. So it was never really a calculated, I think I want to revisit the world. It came the way these things always do, through a story.
And with obviously doing a screenplay, very different medium.
Very different.
Than a novel.
Mm-hmm.
Did you read books on screenplay writing? Did people help you?
I did buy a book that I never read. I just sat on my desk, and I don't really know. I think I felt like that was my homework, but I hadn't actually done my homework. Maybe I just thought I would absorb it somehow by my busy. I was very involved with the Potter scripts in as much as I had script approval, and I spoke a lot to Steve Clovis about what he was doing. So I would say that Steve was my tutor on this, and it's a reason that I was so keen to have him attached to this project, because I knew he would be the guy I could phone at 4 a.m. if I needed to. I never phoned him at 4 a.m. But I suppose I could have done it. I think he would have been okay with that.
You could if you wanted to. I'm just saying.
What, just to be horrible?
Yeah,
just to wake him up?
He has to take your call, no matter what.
No, it's not, no. I wouldn't do it just because I could. I would have to be pretty desperate to phone him at 4 a.m.
In all of the Harry Potter films, we of course know the characters before we see the film because we've read the books. In this particular case, we are meeting these characters for the first time. So I want to ask, and I'll start with Dan on the end. I want to ask all of the actors to just tell us a little bit about your character. Tell us a little bit about Jacob Kowalski. Who is he?
Wow. I haven't done this in front of her.
I'm taking notes.
Yeah. Oh, geez. Okay, so Jacob's back from World War I, and all he wants to do is settle down and open up a bakery, and he gets mixed up with these witches and wizards, and it's a lot like, I equate it to like Bottom from Midsummer Night's Dream, or, you know, I grew up with Where the Wild Things Are, Max, you know. He goes to, you know, Bottom gets to go into the forest, play with the magical creatures, and he falls in love with Titania, you know. And that's what Jo does so well. It's in the zeitgeist already, you know. These characters are iconic, archetypical hero's journey. I'm the baker from the fairy tale. You know what I mean? And that's him.
Alison
That
Sudol.
was beautiful. I
Thank
liked
you.
that.
Alison Sudol, tell us about Queenie.
I'm equally nervous. Queenie is the most delightful human being. She is warm-hearted. She is full of love and light. She's so accepting. These two sort of rascals walk into their apartment, a criminal and no Madge, which is totally not allowed, and she makes them dinner. She's lovely inside and out, but she also has this ability that makes her particularly special, which is that she reads minds, but it's not just reading a person's immediate thoughts. She is reading a person's story. She's reading into them. The more that she tunes into a person, the more that she sees. She's this extraordinary empath, and it's a gift that comes in handy quite a bit in this film, but also just has given her a really interesting quality, because while she is so loving and outgoing, she's always looking out, and she's always receiving, and that's actually made her a tiny bit isolated in a certain way. It's kept her very pure, because she's been protected mainly by her sister, really, Tina. She's been allowed to stay pure, but yeah, she's a wonderful character. I love her very much.
Eddie, tell us a little bit about Newt Scamander, please.
So I play Newt.
Eddie, tell us a little bit about Newt Scamander, please.
So I play Newt Scamander, who is a self-proclaimed magizoologist, and he attended Hogwarts. He was thrown out under slightly questionable circumstances, and he is passionate about creatures. So in the magical world at this period, magical creatures, because sometimes they're deemed uncontrollable, or they have erratic behavior, or behavior that the wizards can't necessarily understand, they could give away that wizards exist. And he is incredibly compassionate and a loving man, and he loves them and believes that they're misunderstood. So he has spent the year at the beginning of this film in the field in Equatorial Guinea and all around the world, finding, saving, and learning about magical creatures. And they live, some of them, in his case. But what I love about Newt is he's not very good with human beings or with wizards. He doesn't have a particular social capacity, but he is formidable with his creatures. And when he arrives at the beginning of this film, he arrives in New York, he scrutinizes this landscape as if it were an ant's nest, but he feels very content in his own skin and doesn't really feel the need for other people. And so he's a bit prickly and knotty and not necessarily someone that you instantly go, oh, and sort of warm to. But through finding these people, these other outsiders, which is what Joe writes so sensationally, is they bring out qualities in each other and they better themselves through coming together. And that's kind of who Newt is.
Katherine, what about Tina?
Yeah, Porpentina. I love saying it. So her full name is Porpentina Goldstein, and she's Queenie's older sister. And they were orphaned as children, and she, because she was the elder sister, sort of had to take on probably very adult positions she wasn't quite ready for, and as a result, she's very capable and confident in some ways and in some arenas, and like Newt, she thrives in certain aspects of her life, areas of her life, but other parts of her are quite stunted because she never had that opportunity to really be a child and kind of explore herself. And so she's probably before the film started, she was all business and very dedicated to her job because that was the area of her life that worked. But right before the beginning of the film, she's been demoted at work. So when you first meet her, she's kind of, she's just been thrown for a loop, and she's trying to stabilize her life a bit. And I love so many things about her. I love that she's not very good at self-promotion. So she's very capable, but nobody really seems to understand how capable she is. She's not good at selling herself, which I really related to because that's something that's so required as an actor, and something I've just always been terribly lousy at. So yeah, it's the kind of thing I sort of think of, like, the actor experience of it is like you're very good in the shower doing the monologue, but then you go to the audition and it comes out all wrong. So throughout the process of the film and the support with this group that she comes together with, she kind of gets her groove back, which I'm just excited to see what Joe's got in store for her if she does actually get her groove back in the coming films.
A few moments ago, I realized I was standing here and I might be covering up Ezra Miller, and the internet will kill me for that. So, Ezra, tell us about Credence.
Sure. I guess you could say Credence is sort of the aged child of violence. He's grown up partially in a foster home where he still lives, and in a community where there's a prerogative to stamp out a certain idea of what is abnormal. And the rub lies in the fact that Credence himself is abnormal. And so, as a result, he's subject to violence and sort of a violent form of indoctrination. And I guess the character is sort of an exploration of the resultant trauma. or just as it could also be stated more simply, like he's just a kid who hasn't been loved or seen or cherished for who he is.
It's heartbreaking.
It's a little sad, yeah.
It is sad, yeah. All right, we're going to open it up to questions on the floor, and I'm not calling on people. How is this going to work? You guys will do it? Okay.
Hi, Nina Liebold, Germany, Cine News. This is a question for you, Miss Rowling. You managed once again to stitch up a story so full of emotions, and I wonder how you do it every time, and if you actually have a secret potion yourself that you drink beforehand.
That's a really kind thing to say. You never know you're doing it until it's done. You never, I mean, I don't yet know what the reaction to this movie will be. I am proud of it. That's the most you can say as the creator. I think we all feel very proud of what we've done together. And if you can say that, you can say everything. I would love for everyone else to love it as much as we do. But the sad truth is, the boring answer is, it's partly inspiration and it's partly a lot of hard work. That's it, always.
Hi, Ms. Rowling over here. What would be a hardest decision, to jump on and create a brand new universe, or to not give all those fans, those Harry Potter fans and fans of yours, much more of this? What would be harder?
Sorry, I'm not sure I understood the question. Would it be harder to create a new universe, or
not give the fans more of this?
not give? Well, I've been aware since the end of Harry Potter that there was still a huge hunger for more. And I think it would be easy to say, then I'll just keep producing. But I never was that person. I planned 7 books. I knew exactly what I wanted to write. And that story was finished. But as I said at the start of this conference, I always had some ideas about Newt, and I was intrigued by Newt. And the truth is that when I was asked, will you write more? At the back of my mind was Newt. I thought, well, maybe that one day. And so here we are. And I think that's the best way. This is what I really, really wanted to write. This hasn't been created in response to a need or an awareness that I could write more. This has been created because this is something I really wanted to write. And I hope that when people see the movie, they will understand that it grew out of certain things that are very important, to me anyway, in the world at the moment.
Hi, J.K. Rowling. This is Michael Joya from Playbill. The film starts with Newt coming from London to New York, and I think that what we're most curious about is when New York audiences are going to get to see Cursed Child and when that will come, and if you have anything else up your sleeve for the stage, if we'll see Fantastic Beasts on the stage one day, or any other property.
There are no plans to put Fantastic Beasts on stage. Let us do the movies, okay, first. Cursed Child, we do very much hope it will come to Broadway, but I have no dates to tell you yet, but certainly we hope so. We hope it's going to come to Broadway. Yeah.
Hi, it's been confirmed that Dumbledore is in the sequel. I'm curious, in that movie, will he be portrayed as openly gay, and will you explore his romantic relationship with Grindelwald?
Well. No, I'm very comfortable with the question. I can't tell you everything I would like to say, because this is, obviously, it's a 5-part story, so there's lots to unpack in that relationship. I will say that you will see Dumbledore as a younger man, and quite a troubled man, because he wasn't always the sage. He was always very clever, and but we'll see him at what I think was the formative period of his life. As far as his sexuality is concerned, watch this space, I would say.
Oh, this is on. All right. Leading up to the last question, this is a 2-part question. First one is for Joe and the Davids. How did you sort of evolve into creating 5 movies? Like, how did that come about? And the second question, is what was all the actors' initial gut reaction when you heard it was going to be 5 movies?
I think I'm going to let the Davids talk a bit. I seem to have been talking a lot. Davids, do your thing.
With the 5-movie thing, Joe started with the first screenplay, and developing that first screenplay was it was a wonderful experience for us because the material was pouring out of Joe, but it was tough as well. Actually, it's a tough process writing a screenplay, and there was a period, I think, where you were thinking whether or not it was going to be more than one screenplay trilogy. It was a sort of process of.
I think we always knew it was going to be a trilogy. There may have been dark moments where I wondered whether I was going to write it all.
Yeah. So there was and then towards the end of that first script, you said yes, you want to write through all 3 of them. And then I noticed as you've been writing 2, there's been suddenly, as the work's pouring out, it was Jo. She said, "Look, I've got 5 stories here," so it's her fault really. She wants to sort of take this ambitious narrative, and it is a very ambitious narrative across 5 movies in 8 years. It's great.
And I would say for us, when we found out that evening, which was the fan cast around the world, so much about this process has been so top secret that it's top secret to us. Our scripts were put in safes at the end of the day, but all for a reason which we understand, which is there is such an appetite for the world and the universe and the stories that Joe creates that keeps, in this world of so few surprises, it's wonderful to try and keep those secrets. But it was quite embarrassing because I have a fear of silence, and when we were doing this general chat, there was a sort of lull as we were all on stage at this fan cast, and I was just filling the silence with absolute gobbledygook, and David was going, "Ed, shush, shush. Joe's here." And we were completely shocked that she was here. And when you announced it was 5, it was absolutely shock to us, but such excitement because when you work with J.K. Rowling, you know that her passion is her characters, and she is fiercely protective of her characters. And when you are given the responsibility of representing one of those, you feel so well protected because it's almost like playing a real person because you have all of the resource and the imagination of Joe to work with. So it was shocking and very exciting at the same time.
Okay. Now, hi. I'm Fernando from Chile, and I have a couple of questions to JK. First, of course, after the Potter books, you started to experiment with other mediums, the Pottermore side, the play, now a screenplay. Was it a conscious decision of you to stay away from the book route, and start experimenting this other medium? And my other question is a more general question. What do you think now when I imagine that you every now and then think and the impact that your stories, have had, in people of all ages and around the world?
Well, to take the second question first. If I'm very honest with you, it is an enormous honor to have anyone, one individual, say to you, your work has been a place of refuge, or it has been my escape, or it helped me make sense of something. I'm often told that it made sense of bereavement, which is unsurprising given that the Potter books were really largely about death. Having said that, I try not to focus too much on what other people think about the work. It's healthy to be interested in what other people think because you learn from what people like and don't like. But ultimately, you have to be true to what you want to do, the work that you want to produce. And I think it's a mistake almost to be focus group driven, as it were. The first part of your question, novels remain my first love. I'm still writing novels. This is why I look so tired. I'm writing a novel and a screenplay currently. So novels are my first love, but if I hadn't enjoyed, ultimately, for all the tricky bits, if I hadn't enjoyed writing the first screenplay so much, I wouldn't have said I'd keep writing. So I am loving it.
Hi, I'm afraid this question is going to get me obliviated, so I'm going to frame it carefully. But I was wondering, sort of going forward, you've obviously weaved the lore that we learned in the Harry Potter series into Fantastic Beasts in the series, and I was wondering how that's going to factor in going forward, especially when it comes to the Lestrange family.
What an interesting question. David.
Well, I'm under a strict edict not to say too much, actually, from Warner Brothers. So I'd like to be as discreet as possible. David?
Katherine? No, no. You know, I think that, and I've read the second script, and it is beyond exciting. And I think the only thing that I can say is that the connective tissue that you have seen in this film is just the beginning, and that as the story unfolds, I'm looking at Jo because she can tell me if I'm wrong, but as the story unfolds, that connective tissue to the Potter, to what we know and have seen and have read in 7 books and 8 films, will become more explicit. And I think that what's so wonderful about, this film is that and what Jo has written is that it can stand on its own. You don't have to have read a single Harry Potter book or seen a single Harry Potter film to enjoy it. And yet, if you have, there's a wonderful additional experience of this story. As you continue, that ability to watch it without having seen or read a Potter will remain. You will be able to enjoy it, but I think you will enjoy them in a completely different way with the experience of having read and seen the Potter films and books.
So basically, nothing. You've got nothing.
I am not a dragon. I have told these actors quite a lot. Yeah, I have.
From MuggleNet. First off, I want to say that we did see the movie the other night, and speaking for a lot of the fandom, it's amazing. We loved it.
Thank you.
They are going to love it too, so rest assured.
Nice.
My question is for the actors. So many of you have worked with Potter talent. Ezra and Eddie worked with Emma, and Alison with Jason. Did you hear from them or talk to them once you were cast? And if you did, what did they say to you?
Yeah, I mean, Emma was the first person I called. You know, I think usually if you know someone who's worked with anyone who you're about to work with, it seems rational to check in and find out what you're plunging into. And I fortunately, when I called Emma, I was given good news, and she told me what a magical experience it was for her, obviously in an enormous and different way for her and in the context of her life. And but particularly, she tried to prepare me for the wonder of David Yates. And help me to understand that. And, you know, I asked her, I was like, yeah, I met him, and he seems so kind and calm, but when you start shooting, that must all fall apart, and then he's yelling at the department heads to get the job done, right? And she was like, actually, Ezra, no, he will remain that calm through the entirety of the production, which is true, and an amazing thing about David.
I remember having a conversation with Ray Fiennes soon after I'd been cast, and similarly, he was talking about David and saying the astonishing thing is for the scale of the movies, and if you're directing a film of this size and intricacy, frankly, with all of the different departments, and you are having to guide this trawler, you know, he said what is astonishing for all the different departments that he's having to juggle, he has the most astonishing eye for actors, as in he is on you and seeing everything. And if you look at his early TV work and all of his work in the Potters, that's absolutely clear. But what was astonishing to me is that amidst the scale, he managed to make it feel like an indie movie. I know that sounds ridiculous, but he genuinely did. Like, he was seeing every ounce of what we were doing, and so that was wonderful.
Hi, Erin from mentalfloss.com. This question is for JK. How did you decide which beasts you wanted to include in the movie, and then how involved were you in the design of the creatures?
The beasts were interesting because I think there were a couple of the beasts that are in the movie were always in the movie. And then we swapped a couple as we went, just because we thought it would make a more interesting. There were some escapades we wanted to put in. So we swapped a couple of beasts. It just felt better. I don't want to say too much, but I think everyone's going to want a Niffler after this. I want a Niffler, quite honestly. We all want Nifflers. Yep. As far as the design was concerned, yeah, I was involved and I saw everything. We have the most extraordinary creative team. They've done such beautiful work on this movie. It's been amazing, yeah.
Hi, this is Jill Sargent with Reuters. I have a question for J.K. Rowling. You were very vocal yesterday, Joe, about your feelings on the election of Donald Trump. And I wondered if you could talk a little bit more about how those feelings, how your feelings about that election relate to some of the themes in Fantastic Beasts and also in Harry Potter.
I think I don't want to say any more specifically about yesterday right now, because we're here for the movie that we've all worked so hard on, and I would like to talk about that, and I think today might be a day to concentrate on some good things and putting some good things out into the world, hopefully. As far as themes are concerned, obviously this story was conceived a few years ago, so I can't make any direct relationship to anything that happened yesterday. But I will say that this first movie shows how the five actors on stage are playing 5 characters who were drawn into a situation that none of them expected. And as often happened in the Potterverse, they are going to have to make some choices about how they deal with something that you glimpse for the first time in this movie. And that will obviously become a significant factor going forward. And if you have read the Potter books, you'll know that this period in history was threatened to become very dystopian. So you were looking at the rise of a very dark force. But as I say, I conceived of this story a few years ago. And it was partly informed by what I see as a rise of populism around the world. But I can't say anything specifically about yesterday because, as I say, I've been planning this story a long time.
I'm Robin Candace with moviehole.net. This is for all of you. Regardless of role played in creating Fantastic Beasts, whether you're an actor, producer, director, or writer, how much fun was it working in this multidimensional world where one second you're in like 1920s New York and the next second you're in a suitcase?
It was amazing. It was so much fun. What was most wonderful was that so much of this had been built. So I have a pretty shoddy imagination, and what was so wonderful, I thought there was going to be a huge amount of green screen, and the reality was that a lot of New York was built in Watford, just outside of London. There were cars brought over from here from the period. There was smoke that was rising from the streets. It was a sensory overload. But then beyond that, working with the creatures, they gave us the freedom to play in rehearsal and work out what we needed. So sometimes we had some puppeteers who had worked on Warhorse, created a huge 3-man puppet for the Erumpent. We had then kind of almost not quite animatronic, but really grisly, slightly disgusting the gelatin things for the Murtlaps. And it was like there were moments when we just, you had to access your inner kid, and I loved every single moment of that.
It's like being Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. We all got a golden ticket, man. And it's like winning the lottery.
Also, everybody, because obviously these three are such extraordinary people, and so in addition to bringing together, obviously, the most imaginative and talented crew as they could, everybody has to be kind. Because if you're not, then you just one bad apple can ruin the bunch, and so you just felt safe enough to play and to take risks, and you felt like everybody was in it with you, and there was just this really beautiful mood on set. So it actually felt like a magical universe to walk into. You came in and you felt like, okay, today we're living in a dream, and that influenced everything. I think that there's a tremendous amount of heart in this film, and it's because we all were allowed to feel the amount of love that we could. We didn't have to protect ourselves on this set, which was a really beautiful thing.
Thomas Urban from AFP. That's a question for JK. I was just wondering, I heard that you went through several drafts of the screenplay, and some of them being very dark. I was just wondering.
One of them was really dark. There was a lot of stuff in the sewers. I don't know what was going through. I don't know what was going on in my life at that moment. I just remember David saying, "This is very dark." He is everything everyone's saying about David is so true. He's so kind and so measured. This is a very dark draft. It's like, dot. Yeah, you need to lighten up a little. So we went through a lot of drafts, but that actually is always my process. This isn't a screenwriting thing. I tend to generate a lot of material, and then I will. And some of the ideas from some of those drafts, I'm sure, will be in the following movies. That just seems to be how I work. I just keep generating a lot of material.
Hi, Allie from People Magazine. I wanted to ask, it's kind of a two-part question. Ms. Rowling, can you talk about the pressures of the fan expectation of going back into the Potterverse? And then for the actors as well, the pressures of fans being so excited that it's coming, kind of living up to those. And can you talk a little about the fan reaction so far that you've gotten?
Well, no one's seen the movie yet, so the fan reaction that I've seen has spanned a lot of different responses, I suppose. I can't wait for people to see it. You know what? I really can't. We're very proud of what we've made, and this is just the beginning. It's a 5-part movie. I know which characters are coming next, and I know. Why are you laughing at that? There's someone really. Well, I know what's coming. So this is chapter 1. And I think people will like what's coming. I hope so. I'm not going down the sewers, though. I read between the lines. There's not a big market for spending a lot of time in the sewers, apparently. Anyway, everyone else needs to answer your other question. Oh, sorry, there was a question for the actors.
Well, nobody knows our characters yet, so that's a little bit of a welcome break in that we do know that this is such a beloved world, and you've created these characters that we all fell in love with in the Potter books, and we all had a very vivid understanding of who they were before the movies came out, and thankfully they were brilliantly cast, and so we were all relieved. But I think we're extra relieved in that nobody knows our characters yet, so you didn't have a preconceived idea of them. But I think we've all seen fans have been really welcoming and really lovely to us, which is great because we're the new kids, and you never know when somebody loves something so much. It's like, if somebody makes a record and you're like, I love that album, don't make any more. Make some more, don't make any more. It's never going to be the same. But keep going, and you're just like, what are you supposed to do? But there is this real warmth and hunger, as you said, for more. And I think we're really excited to share these characters that we all loved so much with you guys.
Yeah, they said at Comic-Con they just kept on saying "Welcome to the family," and that's so sweet. It's really nice.
I like to say that I was scared because as a big Harry Potter fan, I felt like I was running the risk of being compelled to loathe myself. Because if I were to disappoint Harry Potter fans, I would have to join their ranks, as is my tendency. So, yeah, it was a little daunting, certainly a little daunting.
I was so nervous when we first started, and sort of like Tina was trying to act like I had it more under control than I did. And I got to set, and I sort of summoned all my courage, and I thought I had a brave face on, and everyone kept asking me if I was all right. So I started to think, I must be really giving away a lot more than I thought. And then the third or fourth person asked me if I was all right, and I went and I looked in the mirror, like, did I have something on my face, or did I look really ill? And then after about 5 or 6 people said, "Are you all right?" I noticed them saying it to each other, and it's just how they greet each other in England in the morning. Hey, yeah, are you all right? Yeah, are you all right?
I always get really defensive. I'm like, yeah, why?
Yeah, the New Yorker comes out, and you're like, yeah, what's your problem?
I can just add to what Ezra said. We were all such fans of the books and the films. Of course, you don't want to be the guy that comes along and the schmuck that comes and sort of ruins it. So there was definitely there was a sense of expectation on ourselves that we put in. But I think that galvanizes you, and I think it makes you work harder. And the people around us created this environment in which that actually disappeared while we were making the film, and we felt free to play and to come up with ideas and to really great freedom. And it was only when we started doing press that everyone was like, "So how are you feeling? It's quite a lot of pressure right there." That we just sort of gently sweating and have been for the past few weeks. So thanks.
Hello. Not to make you any more nervous than you were before. I'm from the Leaky Cauldron. I'm Katherine Horvath. I am a fan. It was great. But it's been 9 years since the last Potter and 5 years since the last movie. Do you have any words of encouragement for the hardcore fans that are still skeptical? I know that half of you are Harry Potter fans and half of you created it. Do you have any words of encouragement for those who are hesitant that this world that they also feel protective of is coming back, and coming back in an offshoot with nothing to do with Harry?
Well. It's true that Harry's not in the movie, because he's not born yet. But this is very much of the world. And there are characters you will learn more about through Fantastic Beasts. I'm being so careful. You know, this is Potter. There's a certain glory in writing a standalone novel where you can just say anything you want. You know, now I'm back in top secret territory again. But as far as reassurance goes, I think we've done the very best job we can. And I certainly have told a story I really wanted to tell, and I can't think of any better reason to tell a story. And I hope that people love it. I think that we've got a cast with more chemistry than I could have dreamt of. The people up here and other members of our cast too have produced such extraordinary work on this movie. And it touches me to hear what Alison just said about the kindness, because I think I'm still in touch with so many people from the Potter movies, and they all have such happy memories of that time. We all do. It was a family. And what Dan just said as well about his reception at Comic-Con, you know, this has been a very generous fandom in many, many, many ways, and I hope they take these guys to their hearts as much, because I think they really deserve it.
Can you talk a bit about the importance of friendship in your stories, how we've gone from this unforgettable trio of the Harry Potter movies to this quartet that we have now, and also how your characters seem to be outsiders and unlikely heroes?
We definitely do have an unlikely hero in Newt, who goes to New York, and in some senses he's every man. He gets drawn into something, as we all do in life, that he wasn't planning to become part of. But he is very much an outsider also. He's, as Eddie says so truly, Newt isn't really a guy who has a lot of friends. He's very British. He needed to go to America to be taught that people were likable. So no, would you think that's a fair comment? Newt's he's not really a people guy. He's much more comfortable with things that are spiky and fanged. And he meets his antithesis in Jacob Kowalski, who is the most likable, naturally likable guy, but who doesn't really realize what he's got. Jacob doesn't really think he's a big deal. So that was a very interesting idea to me. And that's the basis for our friendships in this. So it's a quartet rather than a trio in this movie, which was fun to write. It was fun to have two big female roles as well. I really enjoyed writing. And I enjoyed writing sisters. You know, I'm one of a pair of sisters. So, you know, I won't say too much more because I want to be able to go home unscathed.
JK.
Don't shoot the messenger, but this is the last question.
JK, Cindy Perlman from the New York Times Syndicate. Two questions. One, your story is just as magical to people as what you write. Just say a few words for people who are trying to get into writing or are facing hard times. And second, can you just give us a glimpse into your writing process? Is it mornings or late nights, or how do you do it?
As far as writing's concerned, I need to do it. I feel strange if I don't write. Clearly, I don't need to write anymore. And I love it so much, it would feel like almost some sort of psychic amputation if I didn't. So, you know, basically, I have to write. As far as hard times are concerned, I never forget how incredibly fortunate I am. I get up every day and I think I do the thing I love. I have a wonderful family. I'm the luckiest person I know. And I would wish the same for everyone who is out there working hard and trying to deal with life, which is tricky for all of us, no matter who we are. And my writing process, well, I will say that we flew out here yesterday evening. I can write anywhere, at any time. And I think I served quite a hard apprenticeship as a lone parent, you know, when I really decided I was going to finish that first book and try. I can write with the TV on in the background. I can write half answering my kids' questions. I have written a surprising amount of one chapter actually on the lavatory, which was the only place I could get temporary peace. And last night, I was in a kind of a bleak mood, boarding the plane, and I thought I need to work. So I got out the second screenplay, and I did some work on that, and that made me feel a whole lot better. So I can write all the time, anytime. Thank you.
Warner Brothers would like me to remind everybody that Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them opens in North America and most international territories on November 18th. Thank you, everybody, for coming, and thank you all for being here. Congratulations on the film. And to your colleagues and to everybody in the room, J.K. Rowling, it's a real treat to have you here. Thank you all.
Beasts, yes.